what's your favorite part of prep and least favorite, also the hardest?
My favorite part of prep is the structure, the progress, um, just being mentally locked in. Like I love that. I thrive off of that. The hardest part of me is not having energy to allocate to things that I'm passionate about outside of bodybuilding. And that, I don't want you guys to think that's like, that has nothing to do with work. It's more so just like enjoying. You start to take advantage or not really appreciate little things that in your off season you enjoy. So to me, it's like really trying to be aware of that and trying as hard as I can to not allow that to happen. And then obviously too, the other hard part of prep for me is because of the fact that you have to be so regimented. Some things in your life have to be cut out or restricted. And again, I keep saying this, how you make money should never be one of those things. How you take care of your family should never be one of those things. Things for me is quality time spent with other people, having intent to check on people, things like that. Sometimes I lack on, but taking care and providing for your family, providing for yourself, setting yourself up financially, those are goals and objectives that should never waver, ever. Whether you're even in college, like your grades, you have to, in order to be successful during a prep, you have to have a structure of how you're going to maximize every aspect of your day, not just your progress, not just your cardio, what you're going to do in terms of your studies, what you're going to do in terms of your work, like it has to be accounted for. So I would say the hardest part for me is just lack of energy for things that I know are valuable and important to me. And then just trying to not let that lack of energy affect me in a negative way. Because I really, honestly, I get more frustrated with myself that I know that I'm that way than I do with other people. And then it just kind of makes it where I'm being hard on myself and then trying to talk myself out of it. So I would say that's kind of the mental struggle that I go through.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. I feel like you should still be able to perform in the other areas of your life just as well. And that a contest prep shouldn't get in the way of that. And there's things that you need to prioritize, obviously, during a contest prep. But if, your relationship at home is starting to suffer, if your work or your studies are starting to suffer, then that's when you kind of have to reevaluate things. But luckily, I thrive in that structure, having work, having school, having prep. I love being busy like that. My favorite part of prep, I would say, is coincidentally also the hardest part, because I really enjoy really just pushing myself and finding out what more could happen if I gave more. And that's usually like the last 8 weeks or so of prep. Usually it's harder, your energy's lower, and just finding ways to fight through that. It's very, very empowering, and it makes you feel on top of the world some days to be able to say, I had all this in front of me and I did that, and I did it well, and I did it at my very best. And that gives you a certain kind of confidence that no one else can really give to you. Like, no matter who thinks you look good, no matter what kind of check-ins you had, no matter what obstacles you faced, that you set out to do something and you did it. And that harder part of prep is my favorite because it's also worth it, and very things happen quick, and you're seeing changes and you're making adjustments, and everything just kind of comes full circle then. And whereas in the beginning, things are kind of slow to move for some people. I know that was me in the start of my prep. Things are slower to move, and stuff doesn't happen as quickly. But I think for me, the hardest part is probably my favorite part. And just having to dig deep. I love just going all in and being just in that zone. It puts me in a new gear, and I love living life at that gear. It's very intense.
Yeah. The competitors that are in this for the right reason, they love that phase where the harder it gets, it's like the more that you just embrace it, and even when it comes to training, like there's days where training is so hard, but you feel so accomplished finishing that session, that it just kind of gives you a high, you know, like, I mean, the energy's not there. The ability to function kind of feels off, but somehow you find a way to get through the session. And after that session, on the way home, it doesn't matter how bad you feel. It just all goes out the window, you know, because you know you did everything that you needed to do. And then for those of you that might not mentally be there, that might be why you're struggling with the prep, is because you're holding back on yourself. Like, you have to fully embrace the suffering, for lack of better words, to really maximize your potential and your ability in this. And that's where the love comes, you know, like the hard, where it's hard is where the love for this really comes.
Yeah, I agree. And like a lot of people just don't understand that embracing the suck component, right? Like I get very intrigued and turned on by the harder days, because I know that means there's better outcome in the future. Like when I was having a difficult week this past week, and I was reading, you know, my biofeedback and what was going on internally and my recovery, things like that, I knew that it was harder, therefore I was getting better. And that to me is just exciting. And once you learn to kind of surrender to the negative idea that, oh, it's hard and you're tired and you don't want to go to the store, you don't want to, you know, do your laundry, like those little inconveniences might bother you, but that's when you need to kind of reevaluate and say, well, I'm changing, you know, I'm doing what, like, this is necessary for me to change. And I know that, and I trust that in the process, this is going to happen and what's required of me. And I'm excited because, you know, those are just signals that I'm changing, I'm getting better. So just being able to give into any negative idea about how sucky you might be feeling, how hungry you are, those are all signals that your body's giving you, hey, I'm changing. Like, I'm improving.
For sure. Just one more point too. We talked about this earlier, but what Nadia just said about like doing the things that you don't want to do outside of your variables, like doing the laundry, doing the dishes, those are all things that you did so easy during your off season. You have to keep doing those things and not putting them off, because that's part of the energy balance equation, you know? So if you're pulling back on the normal responsibilities, chores, daily activities, you're only making it harder on yourself in terms of less food, more cardio. Keep those things consistent. You have to keep those things consistent. So like, ultimately what I'm saying is, don't become lazy. Do what you have to do all the things that you need to do as an adult, as a responsible human. Get those things done, and it's only going to help further the process. You know, everything is energy balance, and managing that as best as you can.